But well, Tony, can you tell us a little bit about what David has been going through since this accident occurred? Just the, sort of the sequence of events and the medical challenges that he's had to overcome.
On December 2nd, I got a call about 3:45 in the morning, Houston time, and Dave was calling me from the emergency room, and he was telling me goodbye because he didn't think he was going to make it. And he told me also, he said, I guess I'm going to need you to come out here to Oregon to help take care of our mother. And I was very lucky because as soon as I hung up from that call, I got on the internet and I was able to get a ticket that day. And I was able to land in Portland at noon. So it was pretty amazing that I was able to get here. When I got to Eugene, I discovered David had suffered a C7/6 complete break in his neck. So it's like all the way, the bone broke all the way through. With that level of injury, Dave's had no feeling below the nipple line. He also was supposed to theoretically have lost control of his fingers. Yeah, but he was supposed to have control of his thumbs. And when I first saw him, he is actually able to flex his thumbs. Unfortunately, or one of the impacts of one of these injuries is as time goes by, there's swelling, and that swelling can go up and down the spinal cord. And as the swelling in Dave's case went up, he lost more than what would be in a C7 complete injury. He does no longer can control his thumbs. We don't know if that's going to come back someday or if it's just going to stay this way as it is. Dave had a really tough time in the hospital. I had seen him after his first emergency surgery, and what they did there is they put a plate in the front of, they went in through the front of his throat and put a plate in to reconnect the bones in the front. And then the doctors promised us that probably that was Sunday. On Tuesday, they were going to go back in and they're going to stabilize the back of the break in the back of his neck with a rod, they said. Well, that turned out to be a major problem because when they turned David onto his stomach on the operating table, all the years of his ankylosing spondylitis had trapped gunk in his lungs. And as he was put on his stomach, some of that gunk fell off the back and went on the front, and he had a difficult time breathing. His oxygen levels plummeted so much that the anesthesiologist called a timeout and said, we can't go on. They tried again later on that week, and again, the same thing happened. And so they said, okay, we're going to clear Dave's lungs out. We're going to concentrate on that. And so for almost a month, they worked on clearing Dave's lungs, which meant that he had an unstable break in his neck for most of December. It was probably right around New Year's that we had a celebration that they finally got in there. They were able to clear Dave's lungs, put him on his stomach. They put in 2 rods, and there's some x-rays on Facebook if you're interested in gory details. But they put 2 rods in his back, and that stabilized the break. We had champagne. Even Dave, his doctor, gave him permission to have champagne.
In my stomach, too.
It went up his nose through a rubber hose. But we celebrated, and then about a week later, Dave suffered a urinary tract infection, which in the old days was what killed most people. And before the 1930s, if you broke your neck, 99% of the time you were dead in 30 days, and the thing that killed you was a urinary tract infection. Dave's urinary tract infection went septic, and he had a fever of 107. And after that fever, he was out, and to me, he looked like he was in a coma for a day or two. When he came out, his voice was definitely different. And the theory is that the 107-degree fever hurt the cerebellum, which is part of the brain that sits beneath the brain, and it's kind of the brain steady cam. And so what it does is any kind of motion that you make with your muscles, it kind of coordinates the action and smooths things out. So we think there's a phenomena called neuroplasticity, which means that the brain can rewire itself. And we're hoping in about a year or so, Dave's voice will improve and become more understandable to people, especially people dialing in on the radio. I know talking to Dave on the phone can be a challenge. For some reason, when you see a picture of Dave talking, everything becomes much more understandable. So John is videoing John Jordan Cascade, a good friend of David, and a guy who's pitching in to help MindFreedom right now with technical issues. He's videoing this, and so you should see a clip on YouTube. So after surviving a urinary tract infection, which went septic, Dave finally got out of the ICU right around February. And the big thing there was Dave and Deborah were insistent that Dave recuperate, do his rehab here in Eugene, and they wanted to go to the Oregon Rehabilitation Center. It's called the ORC, and it's a great place, 18-bed facility. The thing is, once Dave got in there, he realized, hey, I'm the only person like me in here. There were other people that had, car accidents or they'd fallen off a ladder and broken a leg, but there was nobody else in there that had a spinal cord injury. So Dave and Deborah looked around. They found out that their insurance company had a special deal with one of the 15 National Spinal Care Centers. It's a place near Denver called Craig Hospital. And the folks at ORC were able to coordinate a move of Dave from ORC all the way out to Englewood, Colorado, where Craig Hospital is. And we went by ambulance jet, which was an exciting experience, and landed in Englewood. And when we got to Craig, we realized that this was a really, really great decision. As reluctant as Dave was to leave Oregon, let alone leave Eugene, going to Craig was a great opportunity for Dave, because Craig specializes in rehabilitation of spinal injury and traumatic brain injury. And so a lot more patients. There were, in fact, people there who had not only broken their neck, but also had the underlying condition of ankylosing spondylitis, which is very rare. And the help that David got there in terms of figuring out how to make this wheelchair work for him was just amazing. I can't say enough good things about Craig. On May 18th, Dave was discharged from Craig, and he came home. And we're figuring out how to make things work at home right now. I'm hoping to be here another couple of weeks while Deborah and Dave get their caretakers lined up and hired and get everybody onboarded and make sure everything's running okay. So, is there anything that I forgot?
Thanks, Tony. That's a great summary, and let me just say that you're a very inspirational brother. It's amazing all the work that you've done and how much support you've provided, and I just want to tell you how awesome you are.
Well, I don't know how I could have let Dave go to Craig without me, so that would have been pretty hard. I mean, as hard as it was for him to leave Eugene and Oregon, I felt somebody had to be there with him during that time.
Well, and another thing that you mentioned before was that a lot of people at Craig told you what a big impact David had made. when he was leaving, you said people came up to you and talked about how inspirational he was. Is that right?
And yeah, when we were leaving, there were patients that probably had not talked to Dave more than 5 or 10 minutes that came up to me and said, "I'm going to really miss your brother. I hear he's leaving. I'm really going to miss him. He's been a real inspiration to me." So yeah, how you decide to react, you can't always pick the circumstances you wind up in, but you can pick how you are going to react to your circumstances, and you can make a big difference in your life and the life of others on making the right choice on that.
Well, maybe let's turn to David now. And David, how did you find the strength within yourself to have such a positive attitude about what's happened?
Well, for sure, I have to thank Tony. He was there the whole 6 months. With some exception, he was there every day. And Deborah, my wife, was there and also remaking our home to make it accessible. And even my 96-year-old mom helped out with our fundraising. You can Google support David Oakes, and even she helped out. So, but really, it's we all probably have a disaster or catastrophe in our lives. We all die. So how do you prepare for that? And for many decades, I have been in this movement, social change movement, led by survivors of the psychiatric system. So I have been preparing a long time. So I am part of a movement. When this happened, I heard from people all over the world who were very supportive, and so I feel those values of empowerment and support and activism have helped me. Yes, how do we react? How do we react? And my way of reacting, I tried from the start to put a positive light on the resistance. For me, Martin Luther King talked about creative maladjustment. So obviously it's no fun to be paralyzed, but how do we be creative about that? So I have much more time for personal interaction and people. When I was 25 years with MindFreedom, I was often very busy raising money for the 4 part-time employees, and workaholism, email, thousands of email, and now I have more time for my loved ones. So now, after 6 months, I am opening up the circle. I have more time to talk on the phone or personally about change. So come up by, I'm still me. I'm still an activist. I still want a nonviolent revolution of in the whole world.
That's so inspiring, David. I don't think anyone listening right now could doubt for a moment that you're still you. And I mean, we can hear it in your voice, the dedication to this creative maladjustment, this change in society, and you really embody it, because in spite of all of these negative circumstances, you're right there being creatively maladjusted in a positive way. What did Martin Luther King call it? Discipline, non-conformity. That's you all over the place. So it's just wonderful to hear you say those things, David. It really is.
Thank you, Sophie. And you know what? Everybody is in the same boat because of the way we have treated our environment, our ecosystem. We are all in the same boat. Pat Adams said the best medicine is community. So are we willing to work with one another for real major change is the question. I am a survivor of forced drugging, the worst one for me. Neurologic antipsychotics like Thorazine, alpha, malarial, nave. Now it would be Abilify, clozapine, Risperdal, Zyprexa. What a nightmare. I mean, if you want to be on these chemicals, okay, that is your choice. But the system is pushing these chemicals on people with distress, even children, and it is causing literally a chemical lobotomy and death and suffering. It is a nightmare, and what has helped me is logic, just the logic and evidence that it is wrong to cause such suffering.
And David, thank you for making that really important point. You know, if in the process of quote unquote treating people, we're causing suffering, we're causing harm, how can we in good conscience continue to call it treatment? And, you know, in the bio that I read about you earlier, it says that you recovered through peer support, activism, employment. Psychiatric drugs were not on the list for you. Instead, it was more these wholesome activities of your own free will, your own choice to participate in them that really helped you out. And then when you were talking about, you know, more recently, it sounds like a big part of your recovery has been centered on peer support and having, you know, family and friends and loved ones close to you and supporting you. Is that accurate?
Correct. I often went into nature, like of meditation and fast in orchids, natural places. You can see that on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search for David Oakes, Neptune Beach. That was my last vision quest in the woods. David Oakes, Neptune Beach.
Now, I watched that video, David, and in that video, you kind of talk about what you envision for the future of our movement. Would you be willing to talk a little bit about that now?
I'm embarrassed to say that MLK did civil disobedience 69 times. I have done CD maybe a dozen times. Let's go. Let's directly, peacefully resist this monstrosity. For me, I have gone to places like Chamber of Commerce to protest the climate crisis, but anywhere there is oppression, let's get busy with nonviolent, direct resistance.
That sounds awesome, David. We actually have another caller, Paula Kaplan in California, and I think she's got something to say along those lines as well, the power of activism and disobedience. So, Paula, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you for taking my call. Hi, David.
Hi, Paula.
Sending love to you. And,
Thanks.
you know, as I was listening to Tony and then to you speak about what's been happening with you and what you've been doing, I was thinking about power, and I was thinking about the kind of power that the people in charge of the hurtful systems have wielded, and how you have redefined power, both in the work that you've done before your accident and in what you've been doing since then. And I thought how like David it is that what you're doing is to even expand further the sphere of the area of your concerns and of the revolution. And I just think it's so moving. You're such an inspiration. I think about you all the time, and I hope you're looking forward as much as many of us are to your Creative Maladjustment Week coming up in July. And I hope there'll be a chance to talk about that a little bit, because it's such a fabulous idea. And yes, you are so much in the tradition of Martin Luther King Jr. And with the addition of so much humor and creativity, and it's really life affirming. Thank you, David, for everything.
Paula, thank you for your leadership in resistance, especially with women and vets and so many psychologists. I mean, you're great. And MLK is the one who came up with creative maladjustment. So July 7 to July 14, please do not be normal. Do not be normal. Now, this is the easiest thing in the world, because normal does not exist. What is called normal, what is falsely called normal, is the worst form of behavior and thought to ever visit this planet. So, what is called normal is not normal. July 7th, do not be normal. It's very easy not to be normal. Hey, Tony, will you be here for the Oregon Country Fair?
I thought it's going to be here for Creative Maladjustment Week.
Yeah, Pat Adams is our main guy. Sophie, you have done a great website. Google Creative Maladjustment Week. LaTanya, I always remember our lunch where we talked about a whole week of events. So everyone, go a little crazy. Okay, I am not there on email to help you hold your hand. You know what needs to happen. Go a little crazy. July 7th to 14th. Thanks.
Thank you, David. That was a call to action. And
yeah.
Just so our listeners know, the Creative Maladjustment Week, as David said, from July 7th to the 14th, is based on this principle that Martin Luther King Jr. talked about repeatedly in his speeches. Essentially, he said that the salvation of the world lies in the hands of the creatively maladjusted. And as David pointed out, these are the people that might be labeled as abnormal in our society. They might be called crazy. But the fact of the matter is, they're the revolutionaries, they're the visionaries. Somebody like David is a perfect example of that disciplined nonconformist, that person who just will not submit to what society says is normal and insists on being the person that he was meant to be. So if you're interested in this idea of Creative Maladjustment Week, we do have a website, as David mentioned, www.cmweek.org. C as in creative, M as in maladjustmentweek.org. And there's a lot of information on there, tons of ideas for things that you can do to celebrate creative maladjustment during the week and throughout the year. I don't think there's a single day of the year where we should agree to be normal.
No way!
I think we should be crazy every single day, and we should really take pride in it. So Creative Maladjustment Week, in essence, is sort of, it's taking mad pride to the next level. We're not some kind of niche group here. We're all people who are capable of having this sort of pride in our creative maladjustment. Well, David, I think we actually have another caller, Linda from New York State. Linda, welcome to the show. Did you have a question or a comment?
Yes. Hi. I just wanted to thank David for all his great leadership and his greatness and his persistence in leading this great organization. Unfortunately, my membership lapsed. I plan to rejoin today, and I remember talking with him one time. He answered the phone when I called MindFreedom, and he talked to me for about half an hour, almost nonstop. And I can see he's still leading, and it's just great. I don't know what else to say. I just thank him so much for his leadership and encourage him to keep on keeping on.
Well, thank you, Linda. That is, I would echo your sentiments exactly. David is just such an exceptional leader. For MindFreedom, he's such a voice. He's so strong. Everything about his life, he leads by example, and I don't think that you and I are alone in really looking up to David as an inspirational figure for MindFreedom and just in general.
Yeah, I help people do anything like Paula Kaplan is a great author, right? So that's nice, but don't give up on MindFreedom itself. I am not the director anymore, but please, I worked 25 years on MindFreedom, and I learned that for people to work together is very powerful. If you are on Facebook alone, so what? There are 1 billion people on Facebook alone. But if you use Facebook together, like MindFreedom, it makes it more powerful. So work together. It makes your effort more efficient and powerful. So work together and unite. Okay, and when I heard the crack of my neck, okay, for me, my creative maladjustment, I want to hear the crack of normality like a nut be cracked. So crack it, everyone.
That's awesome, David. I couldn't agree with you more. I think you've really proven with MindFreedom the power of working together. I mean, some of the things that MindFreedom has done over the past 25 years or more of activism are truly incredible. One that stands out to me is the hunger strike, which is perfect example of what you're talking about because a lot of people collaborated to make that happen. Do you look back on any moments in MindFreedom history as being really good examples of the power of working together?
I love you bringing up the hunger strike a decade ago. A number of us fasted for several weeks and got to do a debate with the American Psychiatric Association. They admitted they had no proof of the biological basis of emotional problems, and you can Google MindFreedom hunger strike. But Sophie, people were interested in what we had. We did juice, and our juice was kale.
Kale juice. Sounds kind of bitter.
Kale, beets, carrots, and garlic. Okay, we called it wacko juice. It was, try it.
I don't know.
Only a little garlic, kale, beets, carrots, and a little tiny bit of garlic. It's so rich and sweet. You will like it, but be sure to say wacko. It's our wacko juice.
Wacko juice. We will post that recipe on the MindFreedom site for any listeners who are interested.
And that recipe got more coverage than anything we did.
Really?
Yes. Everyone wanted to know about that. But looking back over 25 years, I'd say resisting is so much fun to have a bullhorn and be in front of the American Psychiatric Association. And just last month, I heard from Matt Morrissey that MindFreedom and others held a nice protest led by psychiatric survivors directly in front of the American Psychiatric Association annual meeting in San Francisco. So the DSM was published, but we were there. We spoke up, and there is nothing like it. You watch DVDs for adventure. Live your adventure. Get in front of these monstrosities. Be peaceful. It's hard. And speak up. There's nothing like it. Live. Live. Like when I swam in a mountain lake, ice cold. I was alive, right? So you can be alive. Speak up. Speak up. Write your letter to the editor. Now, speak up to Congress. Protest. Hey, Tony, you have seen this movement for 6 months. What do you think might help it? Tony, you have to, the microphone is here.
What might help it is
Louder.
I think that you're going to find a way to keep doing what you've always been doing. I know that you're not going to be able to be the executive director of MindFreedom, but I wouldn't put it past you to be pick up your bullhorn and be leading a parade at Warp 5 in your wheelchair there. So,
But I want you to be in it.
Well, Tony, the offer is always open. All you got to do is go to mindfreedom.org, click the Join Donate button, and you too can be a part of the nonviolent revolution in mental health care.
all right.
But, David, we actually have another call. This is Ryan from Australia. He's a huge volunteer with MindFreedom. Great guy. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Yay, Ryan. Survivor.
Hi, everybody. Hi, David.
Hi, Ryan.
What a
You
great
are
episode.
a survivor of forced outpatient drinking. Now you help MindFreedom with the Google ads. Thank you, Ryan.
No problem, Dave. And, it's great to hear you, and it's a great episode so far. We can all tell all around the world that you've got such a loving family with your brother Tony, your wife Deborah, and your mother Violet. And you were a wonderful host to me when I visited in winter of 2011-2012.
Yes.
And it's great to hear that you had humane care in hospital. And it's a really positive message to hear that they were so good to you in Colorado. And, unfortunately on this radio show and elsewhere, we have to spend so much time talking about medicine's dark side. But it's a positive episode today where we get to talk about how pleased we were that you were treated so well and received such great and loving care from both your family and the medical professionals. And I do know that back when you were a young man in college, when you first got thrown into the mental health system, it was your survivor spirit and your courage that allowed you to escape a life of psychiatric labeling and forced drugging and, claim a life for yourself. And I'm sure that you will do that again. And you can, you really are a living embodiment of the survivor spirit. And I have immense respect for you, and I'm sure everybody does.
Hey, guess what, everybody? 100 years from now, we are all very disabled. Because guess what? We're mortal. We will all die. So get your butt in gear now to speak up. Tell people you love that you love them. Speak up about injustice now, today. And go ahead, Tony.
I'd say one thing has been that kept Dave going were all the letters and the love from all the people that helped pitch in to take care of David. While he was in the hospital, Deborah was worried about Dave being alone in the room on a ventilator and unable to communicate. She was able to recruit enough friends, as well as myself and herself. And every night that Dave was in the ICU, there was somebody in the room who he knew, who was sleeping in the same room with him, and that I saw over and over again. All the cards and letters that came in. Even now, it's kind of a joke. You turn on Dave's Macintosh, and it has to sit for 5 or 10 minutes because of all the emails coming in.
Well, Tony, just a moment. I don't mean to cut you off. That's a really great sentiment, but we're nearing the end of the show. We're going to continue on into the archives, but I just want to let our listeners know that we will be doing a show on the second Saturday of July, the 13th, 2013. Please join us at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We're so grateful to David and his brother Tony for being on the show. And this has been MindFreedom International Alternative Mental Health Radio. So for all the people listening, we'll go ahead and continue into the archives now.
Well, thank you, Sophie. Google support David Oakes, and you can help by check or PayPal, or frankly by being an activist and speaking up, and that is the best way to show your support.
Well, David, it's just, I can't tell you how much it means to me, and I'm sure everyone, to hear your voice and to hear what you have to say, and there's a lot of love coming your way. I hope you can feel it.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, everyone, in this movement. Go nonviolent global revolution.